Had a job ever since I was 11 years old. And I said, that's it. That's it. That's where I'll find my validation, is just in hard work. Just that striving, and no challenge too big. I was faking it. And my greatest fear was being exposed.
Every man has a story. The story of your life in the world is the journey of your masculine soul. Things that were formed in you, things that were not formed, things that were rewarded, things that were shamed. Every man has a story, the journey of his heart in this world. And because of the way life comes to us, every man is haunted by a fundamental question. The core question of the masculine soul is, do I have what it takes? Can I come through? Can I handle whatever life throws at me? Because whatever else masculinity means, and it can express itself in so many particular ways in different men's lives, at the core it involves courage and love and sacrifice. That God gave to Adam the embodiment, the image of his strength. Every man knows this. We know we are made to come through. So Adam is given this phenomenal world and all the adventures in it. He is given a lover and a companion for life. And then he faces his first big test. A test that he is about to fail. In Genesis chapter 3, as the story moves along, evil comes into Eden and begins to assault the heart of Eve with doubt and fear and confusion about the story, about who God is, about where life is found. And Adam is standing right there. The original Hebrew text makes it very clear. He is literally at her side. And Adam does jack squat. Nothing. He doesn't speak. He doesn't intervene. He goes passive. It is a fundamental failure of masculinity. And in guilt and in shame and in self-reproach and in embarrassment, he runs off into the bushes. And I love this moment. Our Father comes looking for him. And he doesn't come like an angry, alcoholic father. He comes gently. He comes kindly. He just asks, Adam, where are you? And Adam comes out of hiding, and here's what he says. He says, I was afraid because I was naked, and so I hid. If you understand that one verse, Genesis 3:10, you'll understand every man you ever meet. Okay? There is some core fear in us of exposure, fear that we also don't have what it takes, that in some core way we are failing our design, and so we go into hiding. The fear of exposure and the search for validation in all kinds of ways are the fundamental driving forces of every man's life.
It's a scrapbook that was comprised by my mom. And these are just a lot of pictures of me, different times. 3 years old. This is 1954, 7th grade, big glasses, look like a geek. This is my dad, just back from the war. Here's some of his buddies I'm sure he went through the war with. My father was a lieutenant, a platoon leader in the South Pacific in World War II in the Marine Corps. He fought in some of the bloodiest battles over there, and I looked at him and I just wondered, could I have done that? Could I have done what he did? And I was afraid the answer was no. That was deep inside of me. Yeah, so this is when we lived on the farm, my brother and I. Here's a picture of my dad on the tractor, smoking a cigarette. This brings back a lot of memories.
As time went on, I was searching for validation as a young boy. And so the one thing I found that he did validate me on was hard work. And so I just went to work and just did it more or less to please him. I'd lie about my age to get on demolition crews or construction crews. And I was on a 12-foot ladder, and I fell off the ladder in a construction debris, and there was a nail that had come through a board, and I hit that nail and it came through my foot. They take me to the ER, and I remember the superintendent said, "Well, he won't be back." And so the next morning I was back at work, and I worked for the rest of the summer. So my dad says, "Son, I'm really proud of you. You worked like a man." To some that might sound like a good message, but underneath it was, that's what I have to do in order to please my father. I was still very insecure because it's like, it's not enough. Next thing, it's not enough, it's not enough.
In so many ways, Bart is such a good guy. He's really kind of a man's man. But in his story, you can hear the inside of his heart, right? You hear the fear. You hear the uncertainty that led to the striving and the over the top and the hard work piece of that. You see, what you meet when you meet any man is usually his fig leaf. It's an elaborate, well-designed fig leaf that we call the false self or the poser. We are leading with the parts of us that we think are going to get us praise or at least keep us from exposure, and we're hiding everything else that we are certain if we were exposed, we would be rejected. So let me ask you a question. How do you act when you are around your mechanic? Let's say you're the guys like me who don't know a lot about cars. How do you feel when you are in the shop? Right? And he comes out with greasy hands and a rag and he says, "Okay, you need a Frigga-Moritz and a DDD and a CVG and your bushings are shot," right? Something in me, 6 years old, right, goes, "Yes, sir," and I just give him my credit card, right? Like, do you kind of put on the bravado and go, "Oh yeah, I thought it was my bushings, thanks for checking that out." How do you act around your doctor? How do you feel in your boss's office when he is really ticked at you? Or how about down at the gym? Do you even go to the gym? Why don't you go to the gym? What is it that you're trying to avoid? Or if you're at the gym and you're on the treadmill and you look over and you see these guys cross-training, right? And having fun with the ropes and all that, do you ever go over and join them? Why not? You see, this is what's driving all of us. This search for validation, the question, right? Do I have what it takes? And the commitment, this fierce commitment in us to avoid exposure at any cost. The false self, the poser, is constructed over time in the story of our boyhood and young manhood into adult life through our wounds, through our sin, and actually through our gifting, right? We do grab pieces of us that are true. It's just that we play to them and to nothing else. So in the story of my life, I grew up around a great group of young guys, and they were all athletes. And I was a little guy, and I was way underweight, but I wanted to try out for the football team too, because they were all, middle school, and they're getting on the football team, and this is going to determine your high school career, right? This is where, the boys become men. And I got actually hurt during the summer in a motorcycle accident, and I couldn't make the team. So they gave me the role of water boy. It was so emasculating. Here are all my buddies out there, being heroes on the gridiron, and I am the water boy. But during middle school, I discovered speech class. I discovered that I had a gift for public speaking, right? And then I tried out for the school play, and I found these places where I could shine. And so I went there and I devoted my career to it, meanwhile avoiding places that might bring me exposure. This is our inheritance from Adam. This is our legacy from Genesis 3, that moment of colossal failure and the introduction of the question into our stories. Do I have what it takes? And then in each of our individual lives, that gets framed into a pose, a false self, and a hiding, and a fear, and a desperate search for validation. And here's the thing. The more we are still living out of the poser, when it comes to battle and the battles we face, we only pick battles we are absolutely sure of winning. Like if we're killing it at work, we're the workaholic. We're the guy that stays there till 8, 9 p.m., but we don't know how to talk to our 16-year-old daughter. And we stay away from that because we fear exposure, right? The poser in us only picks adventures that are safe. Right? We play to our strengths. We don't go to the gym. Our friends invite us to go camping, we say no. Or if we're great at that, right, we don't go to a men's fellowship because we're really uncomfortable around men. You see how that goes? The fear of exposure and the search for validation is the number one thing that messes up our relationship with Eve. Most men take their question to Eve, desperate for validation, and then we're mad when she doesn't do it, and we try and hide when we feel like we might be exposed. And like Adam in Genesis 3, we don't offer a genuine strength, right? Right in the moment that we're needed, we go silent. Or we control her. We control our wives. We control our kids. The poser may dominate his family, looking for a sense of power, looking for a sense of feeling strong, but it's not the same thing as love. So let me ask you, how would the people in your world describe you as a man? What are the kinds of words they would use? Would they say, well, he's a really nice guy, but he's not really present? Would they say, whoa, he's over the top, man. He's an incredible runner. He's amazing, but yeah, I don't really feel safe around him. Would people use words like loving and strong, kind and true? How would they describe you? How would you describe yourself as a man? Now, I am not introducing this in order to usher in shame or guilt or self-reproach or just a whole new round of posing to get all this stuff covered. The issue is simply this. We're looking for a genuine masculine strength. We're looking for a trueness in us as men, and the poser is in the way. In our journey to the recovery of the image of God in us as men, in our journey for the recovery of this passionate heart, we've got to be honest about the poser, right? And set him aside.
All right, a great day. We started a company, my partner and I did. We built a pretty successful home building company. I remember we had aligned ourselves to go to Wall Street. I found myself in an environment that I knew nothing about. I felt like a little boy, totally out of place. I just couldn't speak the language, didn't know what they were talking about. But see, there's that little boy searching for validation, saying, I've got to be a part of this. I've got to know what's going on here.
You'd think you'd walk into that with confidence and not feel like a little boy. Up to this point, like you'd built this life where you really had a lot of success and business. And what was happening inside of you?
I had this abject fear in me that I would be exposed. It was a profound moment in my life. That moment of fear just kept coming back and back as I was living just this life that I was faking it. As I started changing my relationships, you guys have been a part of this, just being around guys that were authentic, that owned their brokenness. They were not trying to hide the things that I was trying to hide in my life. The more that I was around these guys, the more I wanted to be like that. It seemed like I just stepped out with God into this frontier that I didn't know where I was going. I have you guys to lean into, to expose me and know that I'm loved when I'm exposed.
One of the things that I absolutely love about Jesus, the true Jesus, not the stained glass religious guy, but Jesus as he really is. Not only is he courageous, and not only is he very, very funny, there is a quality to him that I would call trueness. No matter what life throws at him, as you watch him navigate through the Gospels, you know, one moment the town is cheering and he's the hero of the day and the dignitaries have him to dinner. But he doesn't give way to it. At dinner, he just shoots straight with these guys and tells them what he's really thinking. You know, and then in the next moment, he's got these beautiful women literally throwing themselves at his feet, and he's good. Like, no affair, no adultery, doesn't need it. He doesn't need their validation. He's a loving, kind guy. And then, when the whole thing turns on him, right, and now the crowd's yelling for his head, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. I mean, what you see in Jesus is this incredible core, this center, this trueness to his life. And the wonderful thing is this, is that trueness, that steadiness, that integrity of soul and heart can be ours. If we'll be honest about the poser, name it, face it, and begin to set him down. Stop living from the false self in our journey to uncover the true heart and the true image of God in each of us.
I just love being out here. Love the tractor, love everything about this. I don't want to communicate to you that hard work's not a good thing. I still love to work hard. I love to go out on my ranch. I love to just go out there and play in the dirt. I'm just dreaming about living. I think today, living out of a more healed heart, I mean, I always love the work. I had to prove myself. I have nothing to prove today. And so it's just enjoyment. I love that movie, Secondhand Lions. The last line in that movie was about the two rich uncles. This young boy had come and heard the legend of these two uncles that had lived. You know, he was asking the question, did they really live? And the nephew who was raised by these men looked at him and said, they really lived.